So listen, I know we do these every week, and some of them are things that you 1000% have to do. In a game like this, these aren't necessarily things you have to do to win. I don't think Army's a good when we just look at them as a football team. Don't know if their backup. Don't know if their quarterback's going to start. They might have to go to a backup quarterback. That could hurt you in a way because you're not preparing for them. But there's not a lot to really break down here. There's some things you do have to do defensively. Offensively, just be yourself. Let's go through them. Number one, start fast, score quickly. Started off. So last week, you started off very hot on offense. You scored 17 points. You came out guns blazing. You kind of hit a cold stretch in the middle of the game, but then you completely picked it up. Jaden Daniels goes off again, goes for another 400 yards. Should be one of the front runners for the Heisman, right behind Michael Penix. He's not. Under Jaden and in Jaden's time at LSU, you have had some times where you've started off slow. Last couple weeks, Missouri, you still scored a pretty fair amount of points, 16 points in the first half. If you score 32 points in any game, you should be in it. But we all know how that went down. You wind up coming out in the second half. You would start dominating. Score fast and score quickly. Do what you did a week ago. Because last week, really and truthfully, was your best overall performance of the year. You can say Grambling. You can say, whomever. The best performance that LSU's had this year was against Auburn. I don't have any I sound like a broken record, and I know that I do because at the end of writing down these 5 keys to victory, I feel like I've said this so much, but it's true. I have nothing really to say about the offense. Now, I would like to see some of the younger guys get in there. I would like for you to get out to an early lead, take control, take over the football game. Maybe we can see an extended time of Garrett Nussmeier. Maybe we can see some extended time of some of these freshmen on the offense. Maybe you can get some of these younger DBs, maybe like Stamps and Javian Taviano. Maybe we get a Kylan Jackson emergence defensively. Maybe you can see some Quincy Wiggins. But to do that, you got to take over and take hold early. To do that, number 2, number 3, and number 4 are absolute must that you have to accomplish again this week defensively. Number 2. So let me just back up. I don't know what else to tell this offense. I score more. Maybe convert some more third downs, even though you're the second team in the country on third down conversions. Jaden, get down, slide, don't take big hits, which he did last week. He definitely knows now, hey, man, I cannot take these hits. I'm going to hurt my team if I get hurt. Got to get out of bounds, got to get down. That's it. That is it. Emory Jones is out, and which we'll get to. Brian Kelly announced that Mekhi Wingo and Emory Jones is out, so we now will get the first start in the history of Lance Hurd. He wants to go by Lance Hurd. That's why I call him that. People say, Blake, his name's Lance. Well, he told Carter Bryant that he wants to be called Lance, so we're going to call him Lance. First start for the big guy at right tackle, and I don't think that they're going to do anything that anybody else hasn't thrown at him this season when he's been in there. Mississippi State sent some exotic blitzes at him. Auburn last week did some exotic things when he came into the football game, and he played very well. I have no worries about Lance Hurd at right tackle. Zero. Zilch, nada. Not a damn thing am I worried about Lance Hurd at right tackle. I'm glad that he gets the start. I'm not glad that it comes on the injury of Emory Jones. Brian Kelly does seem to feel that he is going to get the big guy back, Emory, maybe by Bama. We'll see how that progresses through the bye week and into the week going into Bama. But I do feel good at Lance Hurd at right tackle, so that would be about it. Number 2, continue to tackle better in space. So the second half against Missouri, really from the second quarter on, so second, third, and fourth quarter against Missouri, other than one big play, you tackled a lot better in space. The last 7 quarters, you can see that they've done that. So we talked about this week that LSU had more missed tackles against Ole Miss than Auburn and Missouri games combined. Got to tackle better. And look, there's one thing that you've been able to do in these last 7 quarters is you've been, to some extent, better at stopping the run game. 139 yards you gave up on the ground against Auburn. Not great, and it's not great. And this team in Army is going to want to come in here and run every single play. They may have more than that, but they're not going to throw the ball. First and second down is crucial because if you make Auburn a throwing team, you're more than likely going to get some 3 and outs. They're going to give you some misdirections. They're going to do some exotic things offensively. They're going to get creative early in the game. Don't let that worry you or bother you. Don't let that worry you or bother you because they're going to want to come in here and win. You got to stop them. You got to stop them. 4 rushers last week for Auburn had 23 carries for 82 yards. If you take Cobb out, he had a big run, which, you probably shouldn't take the 69 yards out that he had last week. But LSU's been better in the run game over the last 7. If you're going to be able to shut teams down in the running game and be able to get a decent pass rush, it's going to help you out defensively. We see now that you can do it. We saw some of it against Mississippi State. We saw it through 3 quarters at Missouri. We saw it all last week. Continue to build off of that. Is that a Pete Jenkins thing? We'll see. But I have faith that you can go in here and just dominate. I really do. And a team that is going to run zone reads, counter zone reads. They're going to throw a lot of zone read principles. They're going to do a lot of things, which then leads to number 3. Play discipline. In a game like this, against a team that, they're going to be in shotgun, but they're still going to run a lot of the same principles. If you don't play discipline, listen, they don't have the athletes that you do. They don't. But if you don't play disciplined, things can get hairy for you if you don't play discipline. The veer, the zone read, all of this is predicated on making the defense make mistakes. Malik Neighbors' touchdown last week, when he catches the ball in the flat, goes for 29 yards and scores, is a breakdown defensively, mainly due to it's a zone read or what some now want to call an RPO, but it's a zone read where Jaden can give it to the running back, he can pull it and run, or he could hit the player down in the flat. It's a triple option. And you have run a lot of that this year offensively where teams don't know what to do. You confuse the shit out of them. They think, I can't go out in the flat because if I go out in the flat, Jane Daniels is going to take off on me. He's going to get 35 yards in the score like he did against Missouri a couple of weeks ago. If you don't play disciplined, Army's not going to beat you. Okay, they're not, but they can make some things hairy for you. They can make your life difficult. Do your job. Be fundamentally sound. This will be in every the play discipline will probably be in every key to victory moving forward defensively from here on out. We talked about yesterday, and I use some of what we call the sources, the sauces. But BK has gotten more hands-on with this team defensively, and I do think that this is an interesting game to show that he has. What do I mean by that? Brian Kelly is a very fundamental human being. He wants it to be done fundamentally sound, correct, sound football. Well, this is a perfect game to see that. You were very fundamentally sound last week against Auburn. Let's translate that. Don't overlook this team. Let's go out there and kick somebody's ass. I know teams and players can get down. You're playing Army. Yeah, whatever. Let's go out there and whip somebody's candy ass. Act like The Rock. If you smell with The Rock, is kick some candy ass. Lay it to smack it down on somebody. We talk about this in other sports when you play inferior opponents. It's stats. It's a stats game for you. Go do it. Don't pity pat around with their ass. Go get you a couple of TFLs. Go get you generate a fumble. Do what you got to do. And then you have a bye week, and then Bama. You have time to rest. Lay it all on the line. Balls to the wall, pause, but balls to the wall. Go knock somebody's head off. I know that sounds horrible to some extent because you're playing the service academy. I'm with you. But at some point, you got to talk about the football game and what you got to do. They're going to run the ball and want to knock your block off. They're not coming in here to play pity pat with you. They're not going to come in here and say, patty cake, Baker's man. They're going to run the ball down your throat if you don't play fundamentally sound. Patty cake, Baker's man. I mean, I guess I should know that because I have a 1-year-old, but you get my drift. Number 4, third down. I know that I can sound like a broken record with this, but this is true. Teams that get off the field and stay on the field on third down, go look at them. Go look at the teams last year. You want to know the 4 best teams last year on third down conversions? Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, TCU. Number 4, Ohio State. What were your playoff teams last year, I might ask? Oh, Georgia, TCU, Michigan, Ohio State. It's interesting. Last 2 weeks, LSU was on defensively was 3 of 16 against Auburn. They were 4 for 11 against Missouri. When you get off the field on third down, you win football games. When you stay on the field, which, again, we could talk about this offensively, but Jaden Daniels is so clutch and good on third down. So clutch. Guys, he is the number 1. This is Pro Football Focus that we're sourcing here. He is the number 1 quarterback in passing yard efficiency. ADOT has been a big thing. Scramble yardage. He leads the country in every single metric on third down. Offensively, at some point you just say, yeah, man, just keep doing what you're doing. Pat him on the ass. Pause. But pat him on the ass. Say, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. But the last 2 weeks on defense, you went 7 of 23. You've gotten teams off of the field. Or they've only converted, I should say, 7 of the last 23 times that they've been on the field on third down. Guys, that's 30.4%. 30.4%. If you continue to play like that, even if it's 40%, I'm going to tell you, 35, 40%, you're going to win every game from here on out. You're going to win every one of them. Like there's not I don't even remotely question that anymore with this offense. If that's something that you can turn the corner and be great at, not good, but great at, guys, 30% is you're getting into the elite category. Georgia last year was 26%. Just for reference, the best defense that we'd seen in a long time was 26% on third down a year ago. You're at 30% the last 2 weeks. It doesn't look like that because the first quarter, Missouri was 3 for 3 on third down. You only gave up 1 more third down conversion in the last 3 quarters of that game, and then you go into Auburn that you only let them convert 3 of the 12 times. Elite stuff. Teams that do that, and it's the biggest stat that I look at. The biggest stat that I look at for every game, I tell you this, third down, the money down. If you're going to play that efficiently defensively, you're going to win a lot of football games. Number 5 and final. I am not saying for this team to play less aggressive. So when I say this, understand this comes with a little bit of I am going to need you to understand exactly where I'm coming from. I don't want them to play any less aggressive. But LSU the last 2 weeks, they've had 23 penalties for 183 yards. Repeat that. 23 penalties for 183 yards. That's got to be fixed. Like, it's got to be fixed. You cannot allow teams, especially from this point forward, you cannot, even Army to some extent, you can't allow Alabama, you can't allow Florida, you can't allow Texas A&M that much yardage and not think that you're going to get in a tussle. The reason that Auburn game started getting closer and they were only down 10 points, in that time frame, guys, you gave up 55 yards in penalties. 55 yards in penalties. When you do that, bad things start happening. Now, I'm not saying play less aggressive, not saying any of that. You cannot have 23 penalties in 2 weeks. I think it should have been more of a talking point when people were talking to Brian Kelly. Like, hey, coach, if you've been working on any of these penalties the last couple of weeks, 23 for 183 yards is too much. It's too many. I would assume in their meeting rooms that it has been something that they have discussed a lot about. But I'm not saying get rid of all penalties, because I don't think, like, you know, as much as I hate to say this, I don't mind the Lance Hurd penalty. I don't mind that Lance Hurd penalty because he was kicking that dude's ass. Jaden just so happened to scramble, and he got caught holding. That doesn't really bother me. He's a freshman. Like, I think LSU had a face mask. Sage Ryan leaned down at the knees. The guy, like, bent down. Cobb bent down. And he was going to wrap up. And as Sage Ryan was trying to wrap around his waist and the dude ducked down, he got a piece of the face mask. Like, that's 15 of the 100 yards that you gave up last week. Like, those kinds of things, I'm just kind of like, yeah, chalk it up to the fucking birds, because that's 25 yards that just it's so dumb. Another thing, the clapping penalty, the disconcerting signals penalties. I don't expect LSU to continue to have those. That's back-to-back weeks. And let me just preface this. I don't know how much college football you watch. This is happening around the country. So somebody in their stupid ivory tower at the NCAA said, let's make this a big deal. Well, first off, you ate colors as a kid. You ate crayons as a kid. You probably shaved down color pencils and snort them, okay? You're an idiot. If a DB is clapping with 102,000 people around him to get the attention of a DB, what are we doing? That's only 3 penalties. The other 9 were stupid ones. You can't.